I'm going to do a short video about the glove box light in one of these R230s. The reason I'm going to go to the time and trouble to make a video about this is just in case there's anybody out there with the same problem. This is the glove box here, obviously. Now, if you don't know this, which I didn't when I got this car, there is a little lever switch here. When you close the glove box, that switch there pushes in and it pushes down on this micro switch here, and it breaks the connection here. So if that switch on your car is missing, it's worth having a look on your car to make sure that that piece there, but if that piece is missing because it's clicked out of its housing, you'll find that this light stays on, and of course once that's closed there's no way to know that the light is on other than that your battery is running down much faster than you think it should. So it's definitely worth checking that your switch is intact and in that position and it operates fine. Now, if you have cause to change this, it's not just a simple matter of unplugging the two plugs, levering it down and pulling it out, and that's because this plug here is kind of an L-shaped, and the top of that L hits on a ridge on a metal plate. And this light is so hard to get in is because that plug there catches on that ridge. If you try and force that back in, you can just about get it out without removing the glove box, but if you try and force that back in, you're liable to crack the switch just there or damage the wires. So if you do have to change this light, or possibly even change the light bulb, you may find you need to take this this glove box out, which is exactly what we've had to do, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Once you've taken the two panels off here and here, they just clip off. There are 4 screws holding this glove box in. There's one screw just here, there's another screw on the side just here, and there are 2 screws here and here. Now you have to be careful when you take these 2 out that you get the right ones, because there's 2 screws holding this catch in here, these 2 that you do not need to take out. You do not need to take out the 2 screws that you can see. You need to take out the 2 screws that are recessed in here and in here. Once again, don't take out these 2 screws either, because these are for adjusting the rubber stops which determine how far this closes. If you've taken those 4 screws out, this glove box should come down. Now it's kind of hooked on here. I don't know how well you can see that, but this here hooks into a hole there, so don't just pull it down, otherwise you'll break that hook off there. You need to pull it towards you and then it will come down. Now the glove box itself is still held on by this cable here, and these air conditioning pipes. It is one of the features of this Mercedes, some might say over-engineered feature, that the glove box has actually got its own air conditioning switch, and it also has the 3mm jack for plugging in your iPhone to play music through the command systems. Once you've dropped the glove box down like that, it's a simple matter to actually click in the light. But I wanted just to show you how this little lever works, because what happens is if you slam the glove box too hard, this bit here actually pushes the feet out from these 2 little holders here, and that's what's happened in this car, and what keeps happening in this car. What you should be able to do is screw out these rubber bungs enough so that when you close this glove box, it can't actually, this bit here can't push this lever too far in. But what I found is if you've got pesky kids, and especially if they're playing music through the iPod here, children are not necessarily as gentle as adults when it comes to closing a glove box, and if your catch is slightly out of alignment as well, you might find yourself slamming this shut, and as soon as you start slamming this shut, this tends to travel further than it should, and it has the potential to push this little piece here out of these 2 sockets, and it ends up just lying in the top here, and your light ends up being on constantly. Now this is the light that we've just bought from Mercedes. It's the part number here. It cost about £23, Incidentally, they also sell this little lever here. If you find that yours is broken or cracked, you can actually still get that piece from Mercedes, and I'll leave a part number at the end of this video. And when you come to put this light in, you'll see there are 2 spring catches at either end, and the light goes in with the 2 plugs first, and then it should just clip in. Now you can, if you so desire, just put a tiny touch of grease on these 2 things here, or silicone, just to help that in. I want you just to have a look and see what happens when this switch, when you close the glove box. This switch is activated first, and this micro switch is not the switch that switches power on and off to the light. The thing that switches the power on and off to the light is just this very rudimentary bar here. The switch pushes down on that bar like that and breaks the connection, and that's how the light goes on and off. This blue micro switch here, I believe, I've looked at all the circuit diagrams which a subscriber very kindly provided for me. I'm not 100% sure why there's a micro switch there, but what I believe that does is it sends a signal to the computer and lets it know to start a timer to time that light out. So if you left the glove box open, in theory the light should go off. I believe that's how it works. If anyone knows that for certain, please do let me know. Now, what happens if somebody has replaced this light previously and they have forced this plug in and basically broken or damaged that little bit of plastic there? What can happen is that this here basically is pushed in too far when you close the glove box and ends up springing out. Now, it transpires that putting a new light in there stops that little lever clicking out, so we're going to just put the whole thing back together, starting with the 2 top screws. And once you've got those 2 screws in, the glove box is actually held in place. There are obviously 2 more screws that you need to put in, but it's worth at this point just testing that everything works as expected. You can see that that is now on. And I would just try closing this several times, try closing it quite hard, etc. And also putting your iPhone inside there just to make sure it's actually turning it off. But I'm just going to slam this a couple of times to make sure that that does not spring out of position. Okay, that seems to be working. But once again, when you put these 2 screws in there, what happens is this gets pulled up slightly. And once again, it's worth testing to make sure that's still not springing out. What you can do is you can adjust these 2 rubber stops outwards to make sure that this bit here is not pushing too far on that lever. Put in those 2 top screws. I've just done them finger tight using this socket and Torx bit. Now, the last time I did this, by virtue of putting those 2 screws in, very slightly changed the position of everything, and when I closed the glove box, this pinged out of position and I had to do the whole thing again. So let's just try it now. Okay, so you can see that it was closing perfectly before, but putting those 2 screws in has just changed the adjustment of everything. So what I may have to do is just adjust these 2 runners in. There we go. It really is worth doing this several times before you say job done, because as I say, when you put those 2 screws in, it changes the position slightly. Okay, last thing I'm going to do is put my iPhone inside here and just make sure that the light really is turning off. I'm closing the glove box. I'm closing the glove box again. So in our particular case, changing the actual light fitting has cured the problem of that springing out of place. And the reason it was springing out of place was, as I say, because this little plastic fitting here is broken, and I am almost certain that the reason it's broken is because somebody previously has tried to force this back in without actually taking the glove box out and has cracked that plastic there, which just has led to this moving and the light being on all the time and a parasitic draw for the last 17 years for the previous owner, or however long that problem has existed. On this side panel here, and note this side panel has a hook. Often you'll find that these hooks are broken off because people do not know how to take these parts off, so the panel just slides in at an angle like that, and then you bash it in with the palm of your hand to clip it in, obviously making sure that's in the right place and these two clips line up. Now just before I do put that panel back on, it is worth mentioning that if your glove box ever gets stuck shut because the little cable for the catch is out of adjustment, you can actually get to that catch through here. Just before I put on this side panel, I'm just showing you where the clips are here, because once again, this has obviously been off before because somebody has managed to break one of these clips. But when you put this in, just bear in mind that these hooks here go in first, okay? They slide in first like so, and then it clips in. And when you come to take this out, you need to take it out from the back first, and the last thing you need to do is pull it towards you. If you just try and pull it this way, you will end up breaking one of these clips or one of these. Before you put that panel in, put the seat back as far as possible. It makes it a little bit easier. So these two teeth go on the inside of that panel, and this goes, the trim goes on the outside. If you get that wrong and you start trying to bang this panel in, well, you won't be able to line it up here. Now, if you look down that gap closely, you'll see that the clips are not yet aligned with the holes. And you'll notice also that this trim piece here is not yet aligned with the gap. So when you put this in, it's actually quite difficult. You almost have to bend it at the same time as you push it in to make sure that those clips there are actually aligned with the holes. It's harder than it looks getting that piece of trim on. You'll find it helps if you put your knee or your foot against there. I'm going to leave this video here. As I put this iPhone lead back in, I do think it would make more sense for this lead to actually be routed so it just came out of the ashtray here, because this is the natural place you would put your phone, both for using the sat nav and also for playing music. So at some stage I may just do a small modification on the ashtray, drill a small hole through there and actually have this lead coming out, or maybe even put a special fitting in just like you've got there that screws in to the side of the ashtray, so you can just plug this small iPod lead in and then that would be hidden in the ashtray and it would almost look OEM. So that's it for the moment for this light from Mercedes. That's the part number there. Paid £21.60 including VAT. They gave us a small discount because we are Mercedes-Benz Owners Club members. This is the Mercedes schematic for that glove box, and you can see that the lever is part number 400, which corresponds to that Mercedes part number there. As I say, that is still available from Mercedes. I think it's about £18, so it's not particularly cheap, but if yours is broken, you can still get it new.